Yo. What's up with it, man? It's your boy Jalen Stevens, aka Gilly the Truth, man. And today, man, we're gonna be talking about the gender wars a little bit, man. I try not to really talk too much about this a lot of times, not necessarily directly, because I feel like everybody got their own different reasons and reasonings behind shit. And to me, you know what I'm saying? Like some of the Manosphere teachings ain't necessarily to just be thrown away and rejected. We shouldn't just reject completely. You know what I'm saying? Men working on getting themselves together, uh, not focusing on a woman, especially early in a relationship or stuff like that, man. So I do agree with a lot of what the Manosphere has talked about in certain points, but I do believe you have a strong section of this manosphere shit that's just preying on men who can't get women. And until we get to a point where we start learning and evolving the conversations of the genders and how men and women operate with amongst each other and stuff, and even understanding the cultural differences of some of that stuff, man. Because some people will look at it like all women are the same. Some people look at it like what's the difference between races and all that shit. So I'm here to just get on the discussion, man. And I kind of like, man, I really got on this shit because I was watching Mr. Fantastic and Flow. Flow State. If y'all don't know who that is, man, uh, that's Flow State and Mr. Fantastic. They both are YouTube creators, man. I'm actually subscribed to both of those niggas. Flow's the white brother that you know what I'm saying I fuck with, man. And Mr. Fantastic, you know what I'm saying, he's more of like a manosphere creator. And they were arguing about to me it felt like red pill content, but maybe it was the institution of marriage. Cause Mr. Fantastic was just really adamant on not getting married by the state, uh shit, really not getting married at all, that marriage was gonna decrease, that black men had the worst dating pool because of black women, these type of talking points. And to me, I was just like, damn, bro, like who sent you, nigga? Like who sent this nigga, man? Like I I to some of his points where he was getting to kind of I understand like the whole denigration of our black families and shit. But for us to just throw that whole onus on the black woman as a black man didn't have some stakes at play. And he threw out statistics like 61% of black women having a child, multiple children type shit, or whatever that could be the case. I don't think it was multiple children. I think it was just having a child already before marriage. And if you really look at the statistics, I mean, shit, 57% of women in general have a child before marriage. And if you even had looked, even if he had looked a little bit further, he'll see that like with like white women, it was like 50 some 55 or some percent. You know what I'm saying? With Mexican, it was like 56, 57%. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, I mean, the differences, it was black women were higher, but it wasn't like it was a big major differences in that, you know what I'm saying? And it was differences in like the men, like he was saying that men don't have a child, like it was like 40 some percent. But all of them was in the high 40%, with Mexican men being like close to 50%. So all of them were having other men had less children coming into marriage. You know what I'm saying? It was a difference in that. It was a, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, man, this nigga like really false presenting the evidence and false presenting the facts to the people to make it look like black women are out here just days and ways way ahead of all the other women when it comes to promiscuity, and they ain't gonna do this. And then I was like, what's the, because they were talking about divorce rates, and he did leave out that, you know what I'm saying, we have higher divorce rates with the opposite sex. I mean, not the opposite sex, but the opposite race. Like if we was to go and marry outside of black, that we got higher divorce rate than when we marry in black. But because we do have high divorce rates among black folks and black women, I guess in particular, you know what I'm saying, being the less married or some shit like that he was bringing up. I was just like, man, at this point, man, shit, just say you don't fuck with black women, dog. Which I mean, and he probably don't believe that he feel that way, and would probably argue against me like, no, I fuck with plenty of black women before and all that shit like that. But it's like at some point, you're not giving any onus on black men's role in black relationships at all. Yeah. Shout out to a comment. Needs improvement, man. Hey, what's the point of a stat without a solution? It's just something to talk about. And that's kind of a big point of where I'm getting to with all this shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Is that if you sitting out here just shooting out stats about how something is negative and negative, and not using the stat to talk about, well, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Or what's the factors? Because that's what I felt like was never even put into context. Like, what are the factors that lead to divorce, and what's the factors of a bad marriage with lack of communication, financial, work life, mental health? Like, what could be the other factors that put into a divorce happening, and how many of these factors come into play? How many of them can you put on the woman in the situation, and how many you can put on the man? And for you to sit here and use a number like, oh, well, they not getting married, they not doing this, that, and the third, when you can actually look and see using statistics that colorism plays a big factor in how a person gets married, where darker skinned people are less likely or twice as less likely to get married than, let's say, a lighter skinned person. And we don't like to address these parts because white supremacy got a little way of sprinkling itself in every fucking thing that we do. And that's why I even made this video, bro, as far as Black Manosphere versus Manosphere in general. Because we know black people like to tend to use their different stuff, and Kevin Samuels, one of them guys that made it big, made it worth something. But at the end of the day, like, what did he really do and teach us? It seemed like the same old story since the pickup artist days. You know, don't sweat a woman, work on your purpose. You know what I'm saying? Women are chasing after status. They date for financial stability and stuff like that. This is shit that's been said about the pickup artists and all that stuff, like making them feel comfortable with you and putting on the persona of swag and charisma. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just easier just talking, bro. Just saying, speaking. A motherfucker like you gonna like you, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why I fuss with the H-Town niggas, man. Cause that nigga used to say, hey, what the niggas never sweat the hoe. Cause players always get choked. You know what I'm saying? And that's been a song I done listened to since I was a kid, bro. Take it from her, bro. Take it from her. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't supposed to be sitting over here sweating nobody, man. At the end of the day, you're always supposed to be in your own purpose. Doing your life until you find a person that meets you and fits you. And I think we put a lot of times too much onus on other people to fit certain narratives for us. But man, I'm finna play this clip, and then man, we're gonna talk about it.
And this is why I tell you I question everything. Question everything. Love the Red Pill movement. The Red Pill movement it instilled so much into me. It instilled a discipline. It instilled so much acceptance. It instilled the greatest things. That's what I'm telling y'all. It instilled a lack of empathy as well. You got to take the good with the bad. I tell y'all, I question everything. This whole time, with this Red Pill movement, we should have always been asking, what's next? Okay, what's next? What's next? It's mind body, and soul. They never mention the soul. And that's why it's up to you to figure out who God is. Bro.
I couldn't put it no better ways, man. I couldn't put it no better ways, man. Cause these niggas still trying to you know what I'm saying, serve money and love and not love, but and lust and all the other different things out there, you know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to serve no God. They ain't trying to serve a higher purpose than they self. And that's where all the trickery and foolery come in at, man. You know what I'm saying? These niggas be really using this shit trying to, I want to get some women, I want to get this and that and the third. It's all about the sex. It's all about this and that and the third. Not saying it for every single person. Sometimes it's not always like that. It could be another thing. It could be control mechanisms, all that different shit. But it's always in a perverse type of fashion that these red pill shits is applied. These manosphere uh talking points and attitudes in life is applied. So it don't end up being seem like it's coming from a genuine place. And a lot of women are picking up on that shit. How you gonna be mad about that? But I'm finna let my boy FD Signifier, people that don't know who that is, man. He's a brother on YouTube, man, that makes some very good video essays, man. I fucks with the dude, man. He really be talking this shit. This is gonna be a little bit liberal for a lot of people's taste, and I know that, and I did it on purpose. So let's go.
We're gonna jump right on in.
How come you ain't never liked me? Like you? Who the hell said I got to like you? What law is there say I got to like you? Want to stand up in front of my face and ask a damn fool ass question like that? Talking about liking somebody. Come here, boy, when I talk to you.
I'm outside. It's sleety. It's crazy right now. There ain't been no snow yet, but it's like a motherfucker. It's cold this though.
All of my initial opinions about the manosphere that I discussed in the previous videos still stand. The manosphere, black or otherwise, is at its core a byproduct of men aligned to a specific performance of masculinity under patriarchy, a performance that they aren't good at, and so they seek a variety of ways to improve said performance or to cope with the consequences of what a poor performance of masculinity means for them. This coping usually comes in the form of vilifying, demonizing, or just generally blaming women and possibly falling deeper into more harmful, more fringe, or more regressive, or possibly even aggressive belief systems that can turn into violence. However, the blackness in the black manosphere adds numerous layers of complexity to this framework. For one, being a black male automatically disqualifies you from ever reaching true hegemonic status in a white supremacist society. As I said before, even the most successful, traditionally masculine, educated, moneyed, good-looking black men will be routinely subjugated to racial indignity and submission under a white supremacist hierarchy on the basis of being black alone, let alone any other thing that might intersect with that black male identity. See Ryan Coogler being handcuffed and detained for simply trying to withdraw money from a bank. Terry Crews being sexually assaulted and then publicly blamed for his own assault. Or the entire presidency of Barack Obama, where he was still met with racial indignity as the most powerful man in the world. Regardless of a black man's status and behavior, he will never be a real man under white supremacy. However, that doesn't stop a lot of us from trying. Best case scenario, we redefine masculinity and manhood to fit our reality and our needs, or the needs of our communities. But it's probably a lot more common that many black men fall into scripts about masculinity that we've been fed by our elders or media or society as a whole. And this leads to a lot of conflict in our own experiences with the world around us and with black women who also greatly desire a performance of us that is similar to white patriarchy. And this is where much of this conflict arises. The fact that black men are essentially being held to a standard of patriarchal performance that they cannot keep up with, even from many black women, especially in the modern day where black women are gaining access to higher levels of education and economic status that black men are more intensely barred from. When you combine that conflict with legitimate issues in the family court system and a modern media landscape, especially social media, that makes black men feel disempowered in speaking up effectively, you see where the black manosphere gets most of its juice. Because at its core, the black manosphere is a battering ram for this frustration, for this conflict, to butt against black women and blame them and attack.
Now, I think it's self-reflection, but also societal reflection. If you really want to be honest, you know what I'm saying? Because, like he was saying, because we try to pick on the different ideas that we get from our elders and our peers of what a man should be, a lot of times we come in growing up with conflicting ideologies of how you should handle man versus woman relationships, and especially in the black community, because we grow up in certain cultures where, you know what I'm saying, we might have a couple pimps in the family, you know what I'm saying, you might have a couple hustlers, drug dealers in the family, you know what I'm saying, and people are successful or charismatic and have people known and are drawn to them for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? Some people could be just about anything they want to be, and some people are not. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know what I'm saying? You can have the charismatic drug dealer dude actually end up being the hedge fund manager and shit at a local corporation and shit. He just put his talents to the wrong use. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at it the opposite way, a lot of people who do get into some of these places get there because family is already involved in these things. They have uh inherency to a certain degree to certain positions of power. But yeah, I'm gonna let the man continue real quick because FD be cooking, man.
Attack them because they're an easier target than white supremacy, especially for a lot of these men who have had certain views or certain experiences inform how they see the world. Now, here is where we're going to have a pause the video moment. Y'all didn't know this is going to be an interactive video, did you? Many of these black manosphere guys are clout chasers and very thirsty for attention, and they will react to this on their channels, or they're fans who are really a lot like Debate Bro fans, just really thirsty, really get off to the idea that their fave is the big brain. And they will pretty much require their favorite black manosphere figure to respond to this video. Thus, I can expect that this video, much like my last manosphere videos, will get lots of attention and airplay on these channels. And so I want to be helpful and also put you in kind of a weird catch-22 and just give you prompts to pause the video and offer your counter arguments when they seem most appropriate. Here in particular, it'll be interesting because, truth be told, there is a relatively wide variety of belief systems in the manosphere, aside from the one core belief, which we'll get to later. And we can expect that some figures in the black manosphere will argue the virtue and validity of patriarchy, maybe the natural order of men versus women. And maybe they'll pull up some religious angle that helps justify this. Maybe they'll talk about some really explicitly succinct element of history or African history that supports their point without pointing out the vast variety of pieces of history that do not. This also might get low-key homophobic for them. I don't know. Others will come with the classic, we're not a monolith.
We're not a monolith. What? In fact, black Republicans alone are an extremely diverse group of people.
To point out that while a lot of the black manosphere is undeniably conservative, regressive, and reactionary, that there are others that are more left-leaning or at least centrist and don't desire an explicit connection to traditional white patriarchy, but more so desire freedom and self-determination as a black man. That it's an intersectional feminist falsehood that black men seek white patriarchal power. Valiant and admirable points, all of them, if not for the fact that when you look through a lot of these guys' content, what you mostly see is what I'll call black women's cringe content that explicitly seeks to characterize black women as degenerate or evil or stupid or hating of black men. And although I want to be very clear, these stories and these black women do exist, as I said in the previous video about Abba and Preach. When a large chunk of your content is explicitly designed to create a specific narrative about a group of people, it makes it obvious what your agenda is.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people come into situations, especially when they have problems in their life, and they want to find the blame of anything other than themselves. So when we deal with these man versus woman relationships and stuff, I think it's on each person, man, woman, to find your faults and not ignore them. And I think a lot of times, when men go to these extremes and these links to harm and hurt women for this control factor that they trying to upstill over them because they believe this is what uh man and woman relationship is supposed to be like. I'm supposed to be the lead and ooh, and not understanding the complex realities that we are facing in this real day and time, and really have been facing ever since women pretty much couldn't even be raped if they were married. You know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't even, you know what I'm saying, own property, couldn't do anything without their husband say so whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of control to relinquish. And I think that, like I said, that first off, that starts with white man, white woman relationships and the Eurocentric mindset of America. Because we didn't even have the right to marry. So when we get into the stage of being able to marry and stuff like that, yeah, we buy into how they show us this shit is supposed to be like, instead of, you know what I'm saying, being able to tap into our own cultural aspects, because a lot of times we didn't have culture to go and tap into. So it's just it's a lot of subconscious things that affect how people make these decisions. And until we get real about it and be like, all right, I have some biases toward whatever women, black people, these things. Like, nigga, I had to realize a lot of this shit in my own self as I was like self-reflecting. Like, it's ways that I viewed niggas before that I can't now, because I see how society has shaped me to believe these things and ignore a lot of cases of other things. Like, they was talking, like I said, it was a statistic, you know what I'm saying? Let me pull this up, man. Let me see. Cause man, that shit was it was about the black women versus white women and all that having kids before marriage. Like, you know what I'm saying? The rate of women having a child before marriage is just higher than men. But for some reason, you know what I'm saying, it was highlighted on black women, you know what I'm saying, to be so much more of a problem and so much more prevalent, and a reason why we shouldn't marry. You know what I'm saying? And I just find it like baffling, bro. Like, how could we even sit here and, you know what I'm saying, like, how you not gonna bring up all the other statistics that I'm over here looking up? You know what I'm saying? This shit just, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, it's really a lot of propaganda when it comes to this shit, man. People believe one thing no matter what. Like, and if they can find one statistic that backs their claim, or a couple statistics that back their claim, they gonna shoot that shit all down in your throat. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about this shit, really, to me, is that because the percentages, you know what I'm saying, is what, like 61%, you know what I'm saying, 58%, 56%, I mean 56.8%. And that was for white women, you know what I'm saying, having a child before being married. And what you call it? It was like 50 or 55% for women, for white women. You know what I'm saying? But since white women tend to marry more, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to actual like statistics for like single motherhood, you know what I'm saying? Uh the statistics are a lot lower, you know what I'm saying, for like white women. It's 29% because they tend to stay married, you know what I'm saying? Whereas the divorce rates in the uh black relationships are a lot higher. So, you know what I'm saying? That's just something to think about. I was gonna share it, but I'm finna gonna let the man continue with what he's saying because he really be cooking, man.
These videos serve as ways for them to signal their misogyny to each other and justify it. Because, of course, why wouldn't black men feel a certain way about black women if every video they see is of a black woman doing something degenerate or harmful or stupid or whatever?
In case you ain't heard it, but the price of has skyrocketed. Okay.
I can already tell by the length of the eyelashes, in conjunction with the dexterity of the forehead bangs, that this will not be an intellectually riveting conversation.
So regardless of the variety of spectrums you may see in the black manosphere from a political standpoint, I don't give much credit to any assertion that any of you are anything but misogynists at your core. And I'll pause here for your response. Or an ad break. In this next section coming up, I'm going to talk a lot about intellectualism. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the fact that I think a lot of you watching this 2.5-hour video, are the type of person that just seeks out knowledge, that you are amused and entertained by your own curiosity, that the idea of learning something new fills you with as much joy as maybe having your favorite meal or catching up with an old friend. With that in mind, I am here to offer you today's sponsor, Curiosity Stream. Curiosity said about black men and the denigration of working class.
Got no time for y'all motherfucking broke ass.
People just don't know how to use properly. And in the video, aka FD signifier, like I didn't start it with a lot of forethought. And when I started understanding more about branding and name recognition, I recognized that FD, had a better malleability than Feek the Sig. The question is, why would I bring those guys up and even have art commission for them? Especially considering how small they are. Why do they matter? Why are they important? To explain, we got to get into some deep lore. Dr. Aaron G. Fountain was working through his PhD when he started running a YouTube channel called Exposing the Manosphere, which was an offshoot of his graduate studies and freelance journalism work. And he covered the rise of the alt-right in the late 2010s. And in the middle of that, discovered and started to chronicle what was going on in the Black Manosphere. He, like myself, wasn't overly interested in debunking them, but just kind of like, look at these niggas.
If a black woman would have kept her mouth shut back then, you would not be having World War I and World War II.
Now, the beginning, that's when I have something. I'm like, so, you're kind of correct that there is definitely like a much earlier origin point of like talk radio. I would also say television too, of like, gender war conflict. It's just the origin of the Black Manosphere, at least on YouTube, it actually starts in 2008 inadvertently, when YouTube is still this very nascent social media platform that people just don't know how to use properly. And in the video, on the history of video, I just have like just some conflict about interracial dating that kind of sparks these videos and response videos, which you could do on YouTube at the time. And out of that, you just see like this small, when I mean small, they got barely any views. I've seen some of the original videos, like way less than 1,000. Just these small YouTubers just talking about dating dynamics and like Black culture. And they pretty much use a lot of these early talking points that still circulate in the space.
Since then, he's archived his channel, but not before doing an extensive documentation of the Manosphere and especially the Black Manosphere. So much of this video is hinging on work that he set the stage for. So I want to give him a special shout out. If you are curious, which I hope you're not, to further investigate like the lore of this space, his channel is a good place to do that. That said, talking to him, there's a lot of things that created the like primordial goo that the Black Manosphere grew out of. The Black Gender Wars, which is a in-community conflict between Black men and women that has been going on probably for generations, found its way online, and as a byproduct, the Black Manosphere was born. To explain the Black Gender Wars, you often have seen in Black communities this conflict between Black men and women, usually related to our issues connecting and dealing with each other under white supremacy. And so you'll often see it in comedy legends like Chris Rock or Martin Lawrence, but also smaller guys like Patrice O'Neal and Corey Holcomb.
And what does Daddy get for all his work? The big piece of chicken. That's all Daddy gets.
At the same time, there's also always been what I'm gonna call the niggas ain't shit discourse, which has been popular in TV and definitely music geared towards Black women. And there's a lot to be said about being fair to Black men and how underexamined the niggas ain't shit discourse is, and why the passive acceptance of it as normal isn't a good thing. When I was a kid, there was a song by TLC called No Scrubs, and it was basically a diss track to working class Black men, and it was literally their biggest song ever and the #1 hit in the country for 3 or 4 months. And this is not an isolated incident.
We ain't got no time for y'all motherfucking broke ass.
Why haven't I found another? A baller. Broke boys don't deserve no pussy.
I know that's right.
So yeah, might be a problem there that we haven't quite engaged with.
Yeah, most definitely it is a problem, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like I say, men's reaction to these situations has to be more matured and thought out. So, you know what I'm saying? It's not to, you know what I'm saying, turn this into a women ain't shit conversation, because us both going back and forth calling each other ain't shit is definitely not productive and going to lead to any real discourse in a meaningful light. But you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that he definitely got that same point as well. Man, like, brother is astute.
The refrain on this is usually not all Black men, but I kind of started to problematize that in the objectification video as kind of a cop-out to deflect valid criticism on how we talk about Black men in the public eye. When I hear Cardi B say, broke boys don't deserve no pussy, I take the same attitude that I think a lot of Black women have often taken when listening to hip hop, and hip hop gets misogynistic. They say, motherfucker ain't talking about me. I'm just listening to the beat. But I'm not a broke boy and I'm not a scrub. And technically speaking, like, broke boys have always gotten pussy, right? Still, I don't know what that feels like. And a lot of other Black men do. Just like a lot of Black women, I think, know what it feels like to be objectified and dehumanized in the way that rap music.
Yeah. He was definitely finna bring up, you know what I'm saying, how we objectify women in rap music. But I want to go back to that point of broke boys getting pussy, you know what I'm saying, and shit. Like, what makes a woman attracted to a man ain't necessarily always a monetary thing or any other thing. Like, that's why I say I hate when Manosphere and red pill shit get to sticking to points of, you know what I'm saying, a woman has to sleep up for, you know what I'm saying, financial status. Like, shit, bro, like, it's plenty of women professionals, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We can't act like, you know what I'm saying, we not living in, we living in where a time where feminism has broken down those doors now. So women professionals, you know what I'm saying, women out earning men is not a new thing anymore. It's not nothing new anymore. So for us to sit here and keep trying to make this thing about, oh, she's sleeping up for this and shit like that, even the whole Joy Taylor situation, where she might have had slept up. She might have had slept up, you know what I'm saying? But when men create that atmosphere where we have the pockets and we chase and lust after, you know what I'm saying, the next hot thing showing us something, bro, we create these atmospheres. And we got to understand that men have a lot of control in how society is moved and shaped. And if we accept behaviors that we'll turn around and condemn in the light while we're doing in the dark, that shit is not helping nothing. That's creating a double standard that causes harm to the people who, you know what I'm saying, necessarily are not really the biggest factors at play. The women, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the women might be benefiting from it and get shunned and all that shit like that. But like I say, why ain't nobody talking about Skip? Why ain't nobody talking about Charlie Dixon? You know what I'm saying? Even like when we talk about this election and shit, you seen how they did Kamala Harris? Oh, she slept her way up to the top. She was fucking Willie Brown. But don't nobody talk about how, if she was fucking Willie Brown, why this nigga who had influence in the city, you know what I'm saying, in San Francisco and Oakland and shit like that, why was he sleeping with this young girl that, you know what I'm saying, that was working for him or whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? If all that shit they say is true, we don't look at the person that was in the position of power at the time and criticize him in any way, shape, or form. And that's the shit that I just don't understand about these talks when they talk about sleeping their way to the top and all that shit and You know what I'm saying, man? It baffles me, man. But I'm gonna let him finish, man.
Music sometimes does to them. And the issue of misogyny in hip hop, while not settled, is a well-developed discourse in the community, in the culture, and in academia. You can Google scholar misogyny in hip hop and you'll find 5,000 papers describing the issue of why misogyny in hip hop is a problem. The same can't be said about black men and the denigration of working class black men within our general culture. As a culture, I think there's an underlying attitude that black men who are derided and disrespected publicly deserve what they get. For an easy example, go and look at how often someone responded in the previous video about black men and sexual objectification, a video where I discuss black men's limitations with defining themselves in a racist society, the unexamined epidemic of sexual assault of black men and boys, the historic exploitation of black men.
And that's what we don't discuss enough, man. It's just the whole construction of deconstructing the black boys. You know what I'm saying? Jawanza Kafufu, he wrote a story about the destroying of black boys, man, where he talked about the education system in society. And man, in so many ways, bro, like, man, we go through a lot. So, you know what I'm saying? Even when we come into a lot of these relationships and stuff, we're not structured properly because of how we view the world and how we see the world, whether it be through trauma or miseducation or financial, you know what I'm saying, warfare that we have to go through. You know what I'm saying? All these things really shape us in so many different ways, man. And like, we don't talk about enough the little boys and shit that have been abused and shit. They had to grow up to be men and deal with society, bro. Not understand that whether it be by a man or a woman. Cause you know what I'm saying? We don't talk about that enough though. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that it don't happen to women, because it definitely happening to women all the time out there. I'm not disagreeing on that at all. You know what I'm saying? And we cover that up as well. But for men, it's almost like being assaulted. You know what I'm saying? You let yourself, even in my own thoughts to a certain degree, I'll be like, nigga a certain age and he get assaulted, like, you let that shit happen type shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's a wrong way of thinking about this shit. If we really want to work on solutions and a whole progress of all this shit, man. Cause we gotta be able to understand black boys and men's vulnerabilities. You know what I'm saying, as well, you know?
Men's bodies under white supremacy and in slavery, like a really serious video talking about big issues. And you'll see comments like, I don't know why y'all complaining black men objectify themselves. And you know, some of those are white insults, but some of it is y'all. And I think that there's a festering resentment born out of that fuels the black manosphere as a whole. Now, should that lend itself to the rampant misogyny in the community? No, but it's something that I want us to talk about. Moreover, it's something the not all black men that are attached to the black manosphere want other men to talk about on their behalf, which is a little pathetic, but it's a thing. Even still, I don't feel like the gender wars were so intense before now. When the comedians did it for laughs, it wasn't a huge deal at the end of the day. You could still feel the love.
I'll say the biggest thing is, you know what I'm saying, is the love black men for, like, the ones that's definitely is trying for who they are. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of, you know what I'm saying, whatever shape or form they come in, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be the fat, chubby, slow guy, you know what I'm saying, that's, you got a good heart, but necessarily, you know what I'm saying, you know, that type of, and I don't mean in a relationship factor or nothing. I'm just talking about just show genuine appreciation, interest and shit. Cause I think, like, a lot of times we show interest in people and not really people that are introspective and have things to say. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the problem come in. I've happened to be, because I feel like, hey, I'm one of the fat, chubby, slow guys, or what, not really slow, but you know what I'm saying? I'm definitely intelligent, but you know what I'm saying? That type of shit. You know what I'm saying? I had certain stigmas and flaws in my own life and situation that, You know what I'm saying? I feel like I had to overcome. And you know what I'm saying? I had to make people listen. You know what I'm saying? Type shit. I'm still trying to do that shit right here with this YouTube. I'm trying to make motherfuckers listen to, not even make them, but you know what I'm saying? Find an audience that's gonna hear this shit and really resonate with it. Cause you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like they looking for the finished product. They looking for the person that's already established. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times the grind is the hardest part, but it's the funnest part at the end of the day. So that's kind of how I look at this shit. But as black women, I can't tell a black woman how to be a black woman. All I can tell you is the best supporting qualities that I find in black women is just, you know what I'm saying, the understanding, the compassion, you know what I'm saying, the love, you know what I'm saying, the comfort, and the willingness to bring honest opinion to a conversation and not just looking at as you have to be in a sideline. I feel like our women have done that more than any other race of people, and I don't have no real statistics on that to prove it, back it up. But I feel like that's the biggest part of a lot of people conflict with the black woman is that she is very opinionated, she is very strong, and when she says what's on her mind, which that doesn't go for every black woman because every black woman ain't like this, but I think a majority for sure are like this. That when she say what's on her mind, a lot of time that gets stood as gets misconstrued as she's trying to be a man. She's trying to be in a man's place and whoop in the third. And that shit right there has driven a whole lot of conversations into dirt. You know what I'm saying? A lot of relationships into dirt because you're not understanding that, yeah, you have a strong woman right here, man. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a woman that's opinionated. There's nothing wrong with having a woman that has, you know what I'm saying? Like, we shouldn't want our women to just be to the back of us. They need to be to the side of us. We should be in this shit together type shit. But I'm gonna let them finish, man.
In that to an extent, for every bills, there were two soldiers, or cater to use it. It was obvious that black men and women still had a strong bond with maybe a few bad scratches on the surface of that bond. However, it feels like the internet and social media seemingly altered the tone of this ongoing discourse. Regardless of how you feel and where you stand, it's important to keep in mind that the actual data on communities around black men and women show that we partner more with each other, we are in a community with each other, we support each other, etc. And it's important not to let the loud minority of voices online make you think that this vitriol between black men and women that we see on social media is how things really are. As many arguments as I've gotten into with black women about issues around gender online, they never get as ugly and heated when I'm face to face with people. So I don't know who was the first to take advantage of this conflict and make career out of it,
to
but
try
the
to
first
take
black
it all the
man
way
to really
to a
establish himself
disrespectful level when you face to face with people, and that's what makes online discourse so hard because everybody's trying to be right. Ain't nobody trying to actually get into introspective, and you know what I'm saying. We take each other's ideas and don't necessarily get it. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't take it for disrespecting and that shit. We try to understand. We bring our logic to the table and see how each one can be tested out and vetted. So my whole thing is more we gotta really work on that part of the communication. We're not communicating to just have our point be heard and be reassured that we're right, but to see how well it can be vetted, how many people have a kind of argument to it matters. You know what I'm saying? How many people have different perspectives and what their perspectives are matters too. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not knocking a nigga that be like, bitches ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Just like I ain't knocking women that say niggas ain't shit. Because are we gonna act like there ain't no ain't shit niggas or ain't shit bitches? You know what I'm saying? But we gotta still realize why each person is saying these words and why they saying it. And then we can actually get to a point where we understanding the whole conflict of the situation. I don't think we really get to the conflict like a nigga could be saying bitches ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? And this nigga ain't shit ass nigga too. And a lot of times these people run together. You know what I'm saying? Ain't shit bitches and ain't shit niggas really run together, but shit. Or talk about each other the whole time. And when they get online, we let their conversation become our conversation. But let's go.
And gain a following in this genre was a genuine piece of shit named Tommy Sotomayor. Of all the dudes in this space, this is the only one I truly despise.
4 of them did exactly what I've been telling y'all about. Told y'all what my ex-girlfriend said. They used to draw straws to see who would waitress table full of black women. Black women are miserable people, and everybody knows this.
And the fact that so many of these dudes look to him as an inspiration and a founding figure, again, completely validates my reading of them in the first place.
Tommy Sotomayor, like the most popular person to come out of that like group. Even though he's like kind of solo, but he is within that larger context. Mm-hmm. And that's important because the Black Manosphere, a lot of them originally modeled themselves off of Tommy Sotomayor.
Tommy Sotomayor was from an era where many of these streaming platforms and content creator platforms had little to no quality control. And so he would say the most outlandish, craziest, awful shit. I think he kind of visioned himself as a black shock jock akin to Howard Stern or a younger Charlemagne the God. And he was as misogynistic and homophobic and anti-black as they come, to the point where even when there were no rules, he would still experience numerous bans on numerous platforms. But like a roach in a dirty house, he would always find his way back to the surface. If you were to just read some of the things that came out of this man's mouth, you probably wouldn't be able to tell if it was a black man talking or a stereotypical white supremacist. And this is going to be a theme that we return to multiple times in this video.
There are more people murdered in a day by niggly bears than in a year by grizzly bears. Niggly bears are out there just killing everyone that they can, but people are told that they're racist if they want to avoid them.
Sadly, Sotomayor found a fan base among black men and more than a few black women. His tell it like it is style of anti-blackness, and we'll come back to that, resonated with a portion of more conservative black Americans for reasons I don't quite understand. I think because he kept getting kicked off the platform, and this was well before YouTube could really make you a lot of money as a creator, Sotomayor eventually faded into the background of the movement. He's predictably popped up on various conservative channels and kind of hovers around the space. But that said, although his rhetoric and hatred for women influenced many a Manosphere creators, such as Fresh and Fit or New York spree shooter and domestic terrorist Frank James, he doesn't seem to want to have much to do with the modern Manosphere or red pill community. And much of his rhetoric didn't really inform a lot of the red pill philosophy that dominates the space today. Either way, he showed that there was money to be made on YouTube with this type of content and gave way in the early to mid 2010s to what I'm referring to as the first wave of the Black Manosphere, aka those guys earlier that I talked about that you've probably never heard of. Again, go ahead and pause the video. To all 500 viewers, everything that I've gotten wrong here. And while we're on a commercial break, I'm going to actually change the scenery to make this next section a little more appropriate. So.
But yeah, man, like I say, this should really be complex of how we look at each other, man. And I think that every time you find a bad statistic about black women or black men or any person for that matter, you got to go find the statistics that shows you the problems facing these people. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be discrimination or any other form of problem, mental health, whatever it could be. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of this that run rampant in a lot of the cases that we talk about when it comes to high divorce rates. We don't bring in any factors. We just say black, white, this and that, because these people have lower rates. Oh, that must mean they're better people. That shit goofy, man. Like, bring up the problems that we face, you know what I'm saying, as a society, the factors, you know what I'm saying, of, you know what I'm saying, crime running rampant in a lot of our neighborhoods, or, you know what I'm saying, the influence of media and social media, music, movie, you know what I'm saying, all this different shit. They talk about welfare in the homes, you know what I'm saying, you don't think that affected white people as well? You know what I'm saying? All this shit is, you know what I'm saying, really, like, if you look at the trends in history, women in the whole whatchamacallit, having babies out of wedlock thing, that's been a trend in all women, especially in the West, in America. You know what I'm saying? So it's obviously a whole culture thing. It's not just a black culture thing. You know what I'm saying? all of culture has gotten a little bit less into traditional values, less into certain ways of thinking, and probably less religious and all these different things. You know what I'm saying? So instead of trying to put one thing on a specific demographic, we got to look at this shit and call out what's going on in America as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Because this is not just a black issue. A lot of times, the black issues just are significantly worse because you know what I'm saying. The social economic factors are usually a lot worse for them. You know what I'm saying? Because families are still one of the biggest indicators of success. And if white people still hold about 80, more than 80 some percent of wealth in this country, it's probably 10 that they'll have more families, right? They'll have more households with families that are together to some degree, right? You know what I'm saying? Since families have been always been an indicator, the number one indicator of wealth. Usually, you know what I'm saying, people have, you know what I'm saying, families that have built up wealth over time. That's the reason why, you know what I'm saying, we've been set up to fail because we wasn't allowed to create families in the beginning. When we were allowed to create families and have our own, when we did these things, white people came in and tore down our shit and took that shit. So, you know what I'm saying? You really have since the 70s that we've had true time and actuality to really build family and wealth. And then you had rap music, black exploitation, racism and discrimination and all that shit still, you know what I'm saying, to add on to all that. So when it comes down to it, like the Black Manosphere has technically always been a thing because these ideas of, you know what I'm saying, like we was made to be breeders. So it wasn't never meant for us to go, you know what I'm saying, how, you know what I'm saying, not saying, you know what I'm saying, not necessarily that's what we were made to in true sense instance, but in white supremacy, we were made to be breeders. We were just made to be fucking so we could have more slaves and shit. You know what I'm saying? That's how they bred us. So a lot of that mentality is still, you know what I'm saying, instilled into us subconsciously throughout the years. That's why you know what I'm saying, you have the niggas that that's all they're gonna do, be a Rolling Stone. Go lay some pipe, move on to the next. They ain't taking care of none of the kids. I met a lot of niggas that's like that. Not gonna say a lot of niggas, but there's definitely quite a few. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like a lot of this shit, you know what I'm saying, get bred in us, subconsciously, man, through like the history, our ancestors. You know what I'm saying? What we seeing, and you know what I'm saying, and like I say, you know what I'm saying, our neighborhoods and shit like that. And the same really work for all demographics. It's just the uniqueness of blackness is a little bit just different, man. Like you can't really compare black people. It's unless you like really and comparing like the other dark colored indigenous people of other places, man. You know what I'm saying? Oh, like you know what I'm saying? Shit, that's the only way you can really compare it. Cause like even the indigenous of this land, even though it's a lot less of them now, and I don't know, you know what I'm saying? You see, they a lot of the times they rates are worse than us. We always talk about black people are the worst in every statistic. No, it's Native Americans.
You might be asking, why am I in my car? And why does my audio sound so good all of a sudden? Because I am not in a big room. We're working on it. Enjoy this while it lasts. It will not be permanent. You may be able to hear the air conditioning. I don't know. It's fucking hot. No, I can't turn it that low. Y'all just gonna have. I'm in my car because if you know anything about the first wave of the Manosphere, you know that's where many of the major players got their start between the early 2010s until probably around 2018. Further, a lot more, for whatever reason, don't show their faces. So sometimes it'll just be a static image from a Zoom call representing them, or a singular image from a movie or something. They're not known for putting a lot of effort into their presentation. I'm sure that doesn't translate to the way they dress or groom. Some of these guys are literally decades into this type of content, and their appearances are a mystery, or at least they would be if they didn't dox each other all the time. Jay Smooth is an unheralded legend in what would be today kind of considered left tube. In the old YouTube SJW content, Jay was the only black man with any sort of relevancy through his presence and never got all that big on YouTube. But if you're an older millennial around my age and you were online at the time, you probably recognize his face and voice from a lot of perfectly short, sweet, and to the point pieces of content about hip hop and politics from the early 2010s. I wanted to put Jay Smooth out there partially just to point out, despite the jokes and the nonsense we're going to talk about with the Black Manosphere, black men have always been out and about doing the type of content that I'm doing. It's just we've never gotten this much attention for it. So Jay Smooth referred to something he called homegrown intellectualism.
And that speaks to a larger pattern of there being a big constituency of people who yearn for that feeling like they're doing the knowledge. Like, I'm thinking critically about mainstream narratives. I'm finding sources of information that I trust. I'm feeling like I'm studying the game. I'm learning. I'm on the inside track with the real shit, which is a hunger that this whole tradition of sort of homegrown intellectualism, like John Henrik Clarke, Dr. Ben, and so on, that filled that void for people who weren't going to find that in other ways. It filled the void in imperfect ways. I think for a lot of people, that stuff was sort of a gateway drug to more rigorous intellectual thought later on. And some people just kind of stay at that level.
Right. Or they use it to spin off into more toxic nonsense. And it's an interesting reflection on how intelligence in black men can be stifled and contorted by systemic barriers. And many men who could be doing more useful and productive things find themselves simply arguing with other men about politics or social issues. I and numerous men in my family fit this description. We're argumentative and opinionated, and in part because this is the only way they could sometimes get to stimulate that natural curiosity in a world where being black and curious could be dangerous. My view is that along with misogyny, it's this homegrown intellectualism that also drives much of this first wave of the manosphere. There are many different expressions of this high-minded misogyny. You hear these men talk, and despite the fact that they're saying ridiculous things, you can tell that a lot of them are intelligent. They've just all come to this space with one specific issue, and that's their issue with black women. But even that has so many different permutations of how it shows up in their content. For example, Save Yourself Black Men, or SYSBM, figures to believe that black women are basically the devil, and that any non-black woman of any sort is better than a black woman. But then there are figures of the Black Manosphere who swear by black women, and they want to rebuild the black family, and they would if black women were just more ladylike and submissive, or insert whatever other thing here. Then there are also black men who are men going their own way, or MGTOW, and they basically have just given up on engaging with women seriously altogether, limiting themselves to short-term dalliances and partnerships, but never intertwining their lives with black women or women in general. These men tend to be divorced. And there's even an almost progressive wing of the Black Manosphere who see themselves as masculinists and promote black male studies, although they still end up spending a lot of time just complaining about black women. You hear the dog whistles when you see the company these men keep and the hills they choose to die on. It's hard to take even Even some of the valid things that come up in those more left-wing spaces all that seriously. Think of the Black Manosphere as a church with many denominations and permutations of how Christ can be celebrated, except in this case, Christ is, well, you know what it is. We'll get to that later. Somewhere in this jambalaya of foolishness, there are a few morsels of value because, as I alluded to earlier, a lot of these men are working class Black men who often are maligned in the media and rarely are defended, or at least effectively defended. Numerous forces and barriers in our society deny Black men victimhood in life, despite the fact that we're all.
Real quick though, before you keep finishing, which I think the Jesus of the Black Manosphere is. You know what I'm saying? It's Kevin Samuels, of course, but I always want to see what y'all think, man. Real quick, you know what I'm saying? Before he say it.
Often told that we like to play the victim. It's only in death that Black men can receive the
Been a minute since I
courtesy, and
watched the
only if they
video, so I
die
gotta
in the
remember if he
appropriate
said
way.
that or
For
not, but I think it's
example,
Kevin
take
Samuels.
George Floyd. In death, George Floyd has become a martyr. You see his face all over the place as an example of the murderous nature of white supremacy. And I get why. But the conflict that arises is that in life, George Floyd would have been the exact type of Black man that would have been called a dusty by certain portions of Twitter or YouTube, etc., because he was a regular Black dude on a lot of levels. He was an around the way type of brother. He had issues with drugs. He had issues with petty crime. He had a handful of baby mamas. Although those are not virtues per se, those are things that are within the realm of possibilities for working class Black men who deserve dignity. And he probably wasn't getting it and wouldn't have ever gotten it to the level that he does now, having been murdered by the police. While
And that's a big thing that we gotta realize a lot of times, bro. We never really have sympathy for the people that go through all these different things. It's probably niggas that's all they life, nigga. Oh man, that nigga George Floyd, a whole ass nigga, man. You know what I'm saying? Shit. The moment that nigga get killed by the police, man, everything really do change. You know what I'm saying? Because the symbolic moment of what that meant, bro. You know what I'm saying? It was all the murders of police killing niggas for no fucking reason, bro. It was, you know what I'm saying, shooting motherfuckers in their homes and shit for no reason and shit like that, man. And I think it ignited in everybody, bro. Hearing that nigga calling for his mama and shit like that, man. All that shit. Cause nigga, some of us probably, you know what I'm saying, done seen shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be from another a nigga killing a nigga or the cops and shit. Or you done heard a story similar to it and you like, damn, to them to have it on tape. For them to have it on tape, this type of shit going down. But he definitely right. You know what I'm saying? People, when this nigga was alive, bro, I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember they brought up the nigga case and shit where he put the gun at some a pregnant woman belly, bro. I'm sure plenty of niggas out there, yeah, this nigga a whole ass nigga. All that shit. And even still to this day, it's gonna be some people that's like, well, fuck him, man. He would do that type of shit. Fuck that nigga. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think we lose our humility at, bro. Because we don't know what the fuck that nigga going through. Maybe them drugs had him going through a place where he couldn't find himself. I definitely am not condoning putting no gun to no pregnant woman's stomach. And please don't misconstrue me on that, man. But the fact is that he didn't gain humility, and it's almost like it's propaganda to a certain degree that he blew up the way he did, living the life that would get you ignored for pretty much most of your life, nigga. Being on fentanyl, you know what I'm saying? Probably, you know what I'm saying, just getting jobs here and there, but not really being no very astute ass person at one job or another, man. You know what I'm saying? Shit, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, fucking on multiple women and shit like that. Being uh what they call a typical nigga. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, man, shit, that shit gotta be highlighted, man, because we do take on shit that's not necessarily in our best interest. Not saying that he should have been uh whatchamacallit, not celebrated, but like people shouldn't have went hard for him. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying? It's just it's a lot of at play, bro, on that, bro. Like I said, that's really a deep conversation to have. You know what I'm saying? Like I just got to be real on that. It's really a deep conversation because I'll never want to disrespect that moment either. You know what I'm saying? Because the moment definitely needed to be had. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, shit. If we gonna love our brothers, we need to love our brothers at all times, you know what I'm saying? And figure out ways to help these niggas as long as they ain't, like I say, harming women and children. And even at them points, you know what I'm saying? It's got to be done in a constructive manner, you know what I'm saying? Like, and especially like children, I ain't gonna lie. You definitely, you know what I'm saying, or rape type shit, it's a little bit different for me, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, because I know them victims. But like abuse, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think some of those things can be rehabilitated. You know what I'm saying? Like fighting and shit. You know what I'm saying? Verbal and all that type of shit. But yeah, motherfucker taking some shit like that or touching kids, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a touchy one with me. But everything outside of that, I think that, you know what I'm saying, we should have a lot more humility over. You know what I'm saying? A nigga trying to do a kick though, rob some folks, man, it's nigga, I feel like it's some shit that could take me to that point where I could do that. So I kind of have a little bit more of an understanding for it because I done been in the situations where my stomach touching my back. I don't have that shit no more, but I had a point of time where I felt like that. You know what I'm saying? And he probably on them drugs too. Cause me, I'm a weed smoker. Like we really demotivate a nigga to do goofy shit. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather go just hustle and, you know what I'm saying? Shit, move around in the whip, move around in at the crib or something.
While maybe not for the best reasons, this argumentation, this major point, is something that was probably brought up more in the Manosphere than anywhere else. They were also at the forefront of being critical of the Black Lives Matter movement when it started, looking a little funny with the money that we now know definitely was a problem, and other things. Now, I feel compelled to point out that they've always made these types of arguments on every wedge issue between black men and women, from Serena Williams to Lori Harvey's dating life to the guilt of Bill Cosby to Roe v. Wade. And they're more than often wrong than right because they basically just take whatever the man's side of an issue is every time, regardless of how reasonable it is. But I want to validate that at least in their heads, they think they're addressing a real issue that isn't being addressed. And on some occasions, I think this is very true. That said, I want to further engage in how I see this space as a maladaptive response to the struggles of black men in America. When I look over this space, what I see more than anything are black men who, for numerous reasons, maybe had the capabilities to reach that high value man status, but one bad break, one bad breakup, etc., and those opportunities were no longer there. I don't think it's unfair to say that a lot of these men are clearly dorks and nerds, much like I was, who maybe are trying to present in that exaggerated swag and bravado and confidence that we often attribute to black men, but are failing at it for the most part and maybe don't realize it. And in this, maybe find themselves stymied or isolated or just without peers to engage with and communicate with on the various topics that they find interesting. Isolation is an incredibly... The camera got too hot, so we're back to old school FD style with the Galaxy Note, and it says I only have 14 minutes, so let's go ahead and wrap this part up. Isolation is an incredibly serious problem for all men. A lack of intimate partnerships and useful, productive, platonic friendships is genuinely unhealthy and leads to further isolation and more opportunities for these men to get sucked into these spaces. Because the Black Manosphere is like a cure for this problem from these men's perspective, as far as I can tell. Like I said, some of these guys have been making this stuff for a decade now. Some have fans that have been there solidly the whole time. And a lot of the content on these smaller black channels is like these panel discussions, which is basically just a bunch of men trying to get access to a community, talking to each other, connecting with other men. It seems like a disproportionate amount of them are truckers or maybe black men in rural areas who find the community of the Manosphere to be important, if not just to give them an opportunity to have useful and stimulating conversations with other men. This is one of the reasons why I include Umar Johnson and lots of other Hotep figures like your Tariq Nasheed.
And having that echo chamber online could be detrimental, man. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we get on these we on these platforms, and like I say, you get enough like-minded people together, every other contrarian that comes around at that point will get shunned. So if a person come in and like, well, nah, maybe women ain't the problem. Maybe men should do this and this. Nah, shit. You a simp. You this and that and the third. You need to do this. You need to do that. and that becomes a big ass problem. That's why these spaces can be positive, but they can also be detrimental, man.
The Sheeds and the Coliseum or whatever other Hotep debate spaces there exist on YouTube. There's a whole Hotep debate bro scene that I didn't know existed. They may not be red pill, but they represent a form of black male intellectualism akin to the traditions of black males who were philosophers and scholars for generations in this country without formal education or fancy degrees. You have guys like Iceberg Slim, Donald Goines, Walter Dean Myers, John Henry Clark, Neely Fuller, including some of those aforementioned comedians. These were black men who found a way to express themselves and express big ideas. Some of those ideas harmful, and we've maybe hopefully learned not to bring them forward in 2022, but some folks haven't. But even still, with those bad parts, they were able to bring insight and understanding and philosophy about the black experience and the black male experience. And this is akin to what I've preached on previously about why we don't deify and idolize scholars. I've been saying it for videos now. Please don't, if you're a big fan of Marx, Google who Frederick Demuth was. And thus these spaces are a double-edged sword, because misogyny, homophobia, and increasingly xenophobia have become commonplace in them. But if you're an intellectually curious black man drawn to the energy of philosophy and debate, but without the access to it from a college or the thousands of dollars in debt that you might have to get into to go to a formal university, I get it. I get the appeal, and I understand why some of these men are there, except the misogyny. I love a lot of my boys, right? Like a lot of my homies I've known for years that we are very close, but only a few of them will I talk about anything more than sports and video games with. And if you are an intellectually curious type of dude who needs that type of energy and you can't find that in women, the Black Manosphere might have something for you. It just might. It's not gonna help you get women though. Like that's the other part. It's the patriarchal frameworks that we are all brought up in, combined with the difficult experiences of loving and partnering while black, that make the misogyny within the space kind of this beacon for men to collect around. It's more like the price of admission than the actual focus of the space sometimes. And that might be why these men don't get how they look and sound from the outside looking in. They see their misogyny and some of the ridiculous things they say and believe, or the ridiculous things of other men within their community that they just kind of give passes to as normal. This is just dudes doing what they do. It's the reason why they really, like I heard this multiple times from these various response videos, they think that I have an all female or all white audience, which is not true. Y'all niggas are the outliers here. I've showed my analytics on multiple occasions. Here it is again for y'all to see. My audience is 60 to 70% male. And when you look at the content I'm making, I am not making white male, white female, white oriented content. It is accessible to them, but look at the shit. No, I'm going to come back from that because I think we just bonded a little bit there. I think those of you who are in the Black Manosphere stuff that do watch me because you see at some level, there's similarities here in terms of like the struggle and the way we see and experience the world, although with a different overall perspective and response to that struggle. And I hope and I'm happy that at some level we can bond on that. And I don't know, man, y'all just like, let's hug. Like, y'all know I'm an intersectional feminist and I'm not afraid of male intimacy. Just come on, just bring it in. But going back to the fact that they can't tell that they're the weirdos in the room, the big problem for the first wave era of the Manosphere is that much like most nerds, the vast majority of them have what I call STME, or scaring the maidens energy, which is a fancy way of saying that these men are putting off bad vibes and lack social skills or the ability to read the room if the room isn't full of a bunch of other dudes who are like-minded. This is why the Manosphere is kind of like a cult, because once you've been in there and start adopting that rhetoric to an extent, you can't properly operate outside of it. So you'll have like Manosphere dudes at the kickback, right? And somebody will put on the new Beyonce or Meg Thee Stallion, and these dudes can't even have fun and dance with the ladies because they're too busy thinking about their red pill shit, and they're angry that they're being exposed to this feminist Jezebel shit. So they like put on MF Doom or Tyler the Creator, old Tyler the Creator. Everyone sees this STME in them except them. They think they're special, the intellectual woke few. They don't notice how men with their shit together quietly look down on them. Even those black men who are still invested in conservative and misogynistic beliefs look at especially that smaller old wave of the manosphere and say, I don't know about these niggas. They avoid these spaces because these spaces are dead. They're black holes. They offer minimal support or solutions other than the escape from a world that feels hostile. And this is actually what makes the next wave of the manosphere that happened in the last couple of years so interesting, because they kind of fixed all of those problems, but at the same time made everything much, much, much worse.
So all you MGTOW red pill guys, even some of you Ilmore guys, I got love for you guys, and I dedicate all this pussy to you, all you guys. So tonight, while y'all doing y'all live cast, sexually frustrated, just know I'm probably gonna be dicking down another bitch, and I dedicate all that ass to you. Like, comment, subscribe.
All right, watch the whole thing. Some of this, like some of y'all gonna hear some things you're not ready for, but I need you to stick through, because this is going to reveal the mindset of these chicks out here, and y'all got to understand this, guys, because I want to see y'all win, all right? Now, check the link in the description and the pinned comment, because I got a program to just understand, right? Just female nature. This is the only video you need, really. All right? With that said, y'all follow me on IG, check the link in the description box. Turn notifications, guys. Let's get it, man. So, guys, listen. Why all women are single?
If we would have just neutralized what we was going through at that time frame, and fast forward to today's times, there will not be no Jim Crow, let alone in certain parts of South Africa.
Part 3 or 4, I'm not sure, but it's titled "The Worst Niggas on the Internet." That's my CJ the X impression. So where were we? Oh shit, I had this in the shot the whole time. Like I said earlier, I feel like the first wave of the manosphere is very obscure. The rhetoric popularized by them is prominent, but the figures and fan bases are very niche. I think the average person thinking about the Black manosphere today is thinking about channels like Steph is Cold, Fit Fresh, maybe? Fit Fearless. That wasn't even on purpose. That's just me being stupid. That wasn't even shade. And of course, Fresh and Fit. A lot of these guys have found a lot more success than anybody in the previous Black manosphere could in a much shorter amount of time than their predecessors. From my perspective, this comes down to a few differences. One, their content is much simpler. It's easier to digest. It's not as heady. These are not the homegrown intellectuals, most of them. Two, it is much more explicitly misogynistic. Say everything you want about the old manosphere, like genuinely speaking, just say whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. But the misogyny for them was at least couched in this pro-Black, subtext, or it was a subtext to their pro-Black ideology, a lot of them. These new dudes are just misogynistic. It's just misogyny. That's it.
And I think that's a big important distinguishing characteristic to have in this shit, is that a lot of these new manosphere guys don't even tend to try to relate anywhere to the Black experience. And it's especially like the Fresh and Fit people. Like, these motherfuckers, I don't care if they present Black or whatever the fuck, man. Them niggas ain't go through none of the same shit we went through, man. As far as Black Americans, bro. Them niggas ain't went through that shit, bro. And that's what I think the biggest part of the misogyny when it comes to it. Because no matter how misogynistic a Black man might get, they have a sense of, not going too far because of their mothers. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing I know about Black men, especially Black men in America, man, we love our moms, man. Because a lot of times that's who we went through the struggle with, was either that mom, that grandmother, you know what I'm saying? Shit like that. So I think that part of the experience is what makes it a little bit different. And I'm talking about like a real struggle a lot of times, not necessarily just because if you really look at a lot of these other, not all of them, but a lot of the people that come in, Black Africans and shit, they have a whole family intact with like family structure and shit, and almost to a certain degree, or like the spoiled kid. Like my son gonna be one of the spoiled kids that get whatever he want and shit like that, because that family structure has built some stability to where, you can have some passive income and shit. You can have different shit like that, man. Because again, family is the number one indicator of wealth. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't realize that having two people come together and build wealth is stronger than even, and I'm not nowhere near wealthy, you know what I'm saying? I want to say that now. I'm just saying, as far as the statistics, because I led in talking about how I do use statistics to talk about how black women ain't shit. I'm bringing up now how there's statistics that say, and because he was talking about marriage and marriage not being obsolete too. Marriage is still, you know what I'm saying? The number one indicator of wealth is having family, being married. So, just something to think about.
Three, and this is the interesting one, they tend to be much closer to ideal images of black masculinity. I should also add that these new guys are younger, which also gives them an edge, being of the generation that makes up most of the eyes on social media. But overall, in half the amount of time, a lot of these newer guys have amassed much larger audiences and bank accounts on the shoulders of the less attractive, less.
And that's something they also bring into the factor. Attractiveness leads in a lot of these different, like, it's easier to be a misogynist if you have attraction to use as a cover, because you know what I'm saying, it's for as many women that's gonna be like, nah, I'm not fucking with that nigga because how he look at women. It's gonna be others that's like, but look at the nigga abs, look at the nigga this, look at that print, whatever the fuck they looking at. They gonna be seeing all that shit and being like, oh well, fuck it, I'm gonna try this shit out anyway. You know what I'm saying? Same with men when it come to women. You know what I'm saying? You might see it next time. These niggas ain't shit. I want the nigga that's gonna cash out this, that, and the third, and all that shit turn you off. You know what I'm saying? But on that right woman, shit, you might just cash out, and that's where it come into the play where it's easier for us to listen to these people because we look at the attractiveness and all that shit, and we say, well, this is how the world works. This is what I want to be. And we try to mimic these things while not necessarily having those said attributes. Not saying that it's a right thing, but it's definitely a factor at play. Attractiveness has a lot to do with a lot of this shit, and why certain people can get away with it more than others.
Affable, more steamy, that's the STME, men who came before them. So this second wave of the manosphere raises some interesting things to think about. Going back to the point that I flattened the manosphere into conservative and regressive communities, yes, that is technically correct, but also a reasonable mistake to make. The amount of space and relevance that is made up by these second wave creators that is just classic misogyny with a little bit of conservative talking points, a bunch of red pill nonsense, etc. They make up the vast majority of what anyone would think of when they think of the black manosphere. They dwarf the smaller channels of the old wave, especially anyone in the first wave that isn't explicitly regressive and conservative. These creators complaining that I misunderstand the space don't seem to understand the space themselves, that on the grand scale, they are insignificant to the space that they help create, which is kind of tragic on a weird way. It'd be like me saying BreadTube is a very diverse content creation community. Very, 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 very diverse. Oh, hey, look, it's T1J. Hi, I'm T1. Gives these guys their views. The sale of this alpha male image drives clicks and the algorithm responds. Nobody wants to hear a bunch of niggas arguing in a Zoom chat or the 45-minute meandering rant that some of these dudes do over static images. What they want is a dark-skinned nigga with a beard and a six-pack to tell them how they too can be an alpha male and level up to get some pussy and understand the philosophy of the red pill. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about or debunking red pill philosophy. There are a ton of videos that do that already. Most comprehensive probably being Mooncat's video that came out about a month or so ago. It goes through them like piece by piece to show it's mostly bullshit. But I did want to touch on a few things to just kind of set the stage. For one, I want to be clear that many of the philosophies presented in the red pill strategies or the way of life, at least the ones that actually have any semblance of value, are just repackaged self-help strategies that will be useful for any situation. It's stuff that probably sounds deep to a 15-year-old, which is the majority of the young men in this space, the late teens, early 20s at most, but with the added effect of, butthurt and heartbroken men. In a lot of their videos, you can hear the bitterness and heartbreak in between the red pill nonsense. The other thing about the red pill is that in a weird way, if you think about what they're essentially saying, it's them breaking down the fact that they've been taught social scripts that do not work. That is true.
Like Kevin Samuels, like Jordan Peterson, in the respect that he starts out with this, what might be innocuous 101 level advice, like,
clean your room.
Exactly right. Make your bed, have good posture, shit like that. And then so it starts out offering comfort and reassurance, and then all this other toxic shit starts coming in once you're roped in.
Yeah.
But your critical faculties are turned off. And that's something that we're susceptible to across the board. If someone is offering us a message that starts out by tapping into what we already believe, we feel like, hey, okay, this person's on my team. They're representing us. I'm rocking with them. And then you might not completely turn off your critical faculties, but they'll go from a 10 down to a 7. And you feel like in the abstract, you agree with the conclusion they're going to, so you ignore the fucked up reasoning that's taking them from A to B. And that just kind of gets absorbed.
And it's definitely the case with a lot of this Manosphere content, you know what I'm saying? Because number one, a lot of it is blame shifting. It's not necessarily taking any accountability for the control that you have as men, for what we have as men. You know what I'm saying? And every man, like I say, it's a different level to it. But at the same time, structurally, it all leads to the same place. We have a certain level of control over women because we'll have access if only we do the work. You know what I'm saying? Now, it does, like I say, differ between, you know what I'm saying, like black men and white men and shit like that. And you put those demographics into account. But in general, men are still out earning women. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that has become a little bit more different is that women have gotten more into corporate spaces, especially like managerial and supervisorship roles. So the way that we earning our money is a lot different. You know what I'm saying? And that's why if you take you put a lot of those factors into account, sometimes women are out earning men because they found their way into a lot of higher earning positions, but at the same time, men are still overall, you know what I'm saying, filling the positions that do pay well, but also are rigorous and physically draining.
In the mix.
The irony is because they've been fed patriarchal nonsense about how women are supposed to act, it makes it impossible for them to understand women in reality. And they just kind of never recover from that. It just makes them sad forever until they get angry. And that's where the red pill becomes appealing. The irony, though, is that the vast majority of second wave Black Manosphere guys don't need the elements of the red pill beliefs that they promote on their channels. As I stated before, these guys don't have a lot of STME. They are usually genuinely attractive men, many promoting glamorous lifestyles. You can't teach a guy to look like Fit X Fearless and have his money. Maybe Fit X Fearless hasn't always been in great shape or had a cool looking lifestyle, but the way he presents and talks about relationships and attraction is going to be informed by the fact that he looks like this.
Stop believing this crap that women just want you for themselves. They will share you. They will share you with no issue. I guarantee you.
It's hilarious hearing him talk about like women being willing to share a man and not recognizing that he looks like this. Look at this dude. My nigga, where's your body fat? If you don't look like this or you don't have a lot of money, women are not going to be willing to share you. Point blank, period.
Facts. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say it comes, that's why this shit become harm, is that people that giving you advice aren't giving you the advice understanding the unique set of standards and abilities, the appearance, their attractiveness, any of that shit that they have. They don't use these things as a factor and when they're explaining you what you should do to get a woman. You know what I'm saying? They're not saying, hey, look, you ugly as fuck. Like I say, it got to about like what Kevin Samuels when finally you had some people that would do that on both sides. That's why I have some respect for Kevin Samuels, even though he definitely was very misogynistic, went hard on women like a motherfucker and shit. A lot of them women asked for it as well, though. Not saying that they asked for it by just being there, but they did kind of because they continued to keep going on his show over and over and over again, over and over and over again. Like shit, just to combat him, just hate watching. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, man, like we have to understand that all advice is this advice that the manosphere, the red pills they give is not a one size fits all. You have to be able to use your own unique standards in it. You know what I'm saying? And figure out how it fits you if you're gonna use the shit. You know what I'm saying? And most times the shit they telling you is some just bullshit anyway, bro. The shit that they're not living by, shit that they're not standing on, and you falling victim.
Period. He may be able to get away with that shit, but you cannot. Yet guys like him insinuate that they can teach anyone to be like them, but no. You can definitely be the best version of who you are, but you might not ever be like some of these alpha male guys. They don't sell this, of course, because that would throw off the grift. But to a lot of young men who don't know any better, who don't understand that you may not even have the genetics to look like some of these dudes, it sounds solid. It makes perfect sense, mostly because these young dudes lack perspective and discernment to figure out otherwise. And they're under the false idea that this type of world, lifestyle, or look is the key to them being happy. But that's kind of going into the old video. And this brings you to the last really ironic thing about this whole red pill community, which is the complexity of its origins, considering who belongs to this community. For one, the origins of the red pill ideology or philosophy or whatever they want to call it are pretty closely tied to overt white supremacist ideologies in the alt-right. I can't recall exactly who started it on Reddit or 4chan or wherever, but the red pill philosophy was popularized first by incels, who then kind of became intertwined with white supremacist communities, alt-right, neo-Nazi, like all them tiki torch marching motherfuckers. A lot of them were on the red pill. For a while, there were black men who just went along to get along because, you know, hating women is life. Many still do. But eventually a schism did occur, as is typical in these spaces. But for whatever reason, the black men who were in this philosophy space kept that term in overall philosophy, despite its origins, despite the fact that this was never made for us to use in the way a lot of us use it. It kind of...
There's a lot more black men rejecting the red pill though now. You know what I'm saying? But mostly because it's gone to garner more negative connotations now. So you just more people waking up to the bullshit and looking at it like, hey, this is just pure men that hate women or can't get a woman or something like that, had problem with women. This is not valuable information that's being bestowed. And that's why I think the black manosphere can still thrive because, you know what I'm saying, uniquely, they love to see us fighting each other, number one. Number two, they'll love to tear down a black man or a black woman. So to see us have issues, it can be used later on in arguments. Well, look, I seen he was talking about how black women and this, that, and the third. So now, again, like I say, when black people decide to get into these spaces and throw all the onus on black women, that makes it for other people to come in and throw that other onus on black women. You know what I'm saying? Oh, now everybody is blaming black women for society's problems or for relationship problems or for just black people problems. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you'll have people who never dated a black woman. Oh, I never dated a black woman. Has a black woman ever tried to even wanted to fuck with you? Let's be honest, man.
Echoes the reality of gender in this country as a whole. However, and this is the most amusing thing to me, that's not the full origin of the concept. The concept of being a red pill comes from the 1990 film, The Matrix. In that film, the main character, Thomas Anderson, aka Neo, has been seeing signs that the world is not what it seems. Eventually, she is in the presence of a lot of oddly androgynous people for the late 90s, usually all in leather. Neo is faced with the decision that she can take the blue pill and stay trapped in the Matrix and not learn the world's true nature, or take the red pill and wake up to the truth. Neo takes the red pill and immediately wakes up to the Matrix, but also her true identity as the one, as in the chosen. From that point on, she does a lot of karate, hangs out with a lot of clearly, in retrospect, queer-coded people, including a character named Switch that was supposed to be male in the real world, but female in the Matrix, where the directors were forced to change this by their studio because the movie was already queer enough for those who could see it to begin with.
I can see that, man. I never even thought of that shit like that. And this nigga putting all that shit in there, but hey, I can see that, man. Cause she definitely was very masculine. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
You might have noticed that I keep calling Neo she, and I'm taking a nod from Aeronaut, a trans creator who did the same in their video, The Matrix is Intrinsically Trans. What I and red-pilled men didn't really know about this movie is that Neo is an explicit metaphor for the experiences of being a trans woman. You know, like the two trans women who directed this movie, though they were living as men when the movie first came out. The red pill isn't just a symbol for waking up to the reality of the real world and how you're under society's control. It's also a symbol of Neo accepting who she really is as a trans woman. And if you really care about facts more than your feelings, I suggest maybe watching Aeronaut's video or similar work from Sophie from Mars for the full explanation. But if you pay attention, then you see the parallels pretty clearly from the fact that Trinity, Neo's paramour, is explicitly made as a physical parallel to Neo in all of the movies, especially the fourth one. And this theme goes all the way down to Agent Smith's insistence on dead naming Neo or calling her by her birth name over and over, which makes this powerful moment of the movie take on a whole new meaning.
Goodbye, Mr. Anderson. My name is Neo.
If you need any more proof,
and who was to think that all that was a motherfucker coming into a reality of being a woman, I guess? I don't know, man. That shit just, hey, like I said, I ain't never really thought of the Matrix on this aspect, but like I say, shit, you know what I'm saying? I have a unique thought set of the trans community as well, so some people will call me transphobic. So, yeah, I'm just saying, dog. You know what I'm saying?
Because I know, well, there's no amount of proof for some of y'all motherfuckers. I just know this. No amount of proof for some of y'all motherfuckers. You'll make up some reason why it's not true. That's fine. But for the last nail in the coffin,
I won't say
just
that it's not
Google
true, though.
what
I
estrogen
won't say
pills
that.
looked like in the 90s when the movie was made, and you'll see that they were literal red pills. Now, I hope this doesn't come off as the wrong type of gotcha on these guys. I'm not insinuating that the idea of pulling symbology from trans experiences is inherently bad. In fact, engaging with more trans people and learning to understand their perspective on things and their experiences around gender has led me to a lot of useful ways to understand myself and the Black experience and even the Black men's experience a lot better. But it is humorously ironic that the vast majority of these red pill guys are openly homophobic and transphobic on some level and pride themselves on this conservative image of masculinity, as well as being the big brains who know the real truth about everything. The fact that they named their whole philosophy and movement around this metaphor for estrogen is more about illustrating a different point. That these guys are fucking stupid. They're clout chasers who grabbed onto a hot concept that was really popular with frustrated virgins, aka, I don't know, 65% of the internet at the time, without thinking too hard about it. Now, I'm sure many of them would have found another way to express this belief system or find their way to the same content without the red pill brand, but I doubt the brand would have had the same popularity with this group if it was called the estrogen pill community. That said, the second wave of the Manosphere does have much more estrogen than its pre-modern or prehistoric permutations, and that's in the form of actual women. Yes, believe it or not, more than a few women have also emerged in the Black Manosphere in the last few years, making basically the exact same content. It's just a bunch of why modern women fail. Here's why feminists are so stupid or unhappy or something. I don't want to say a lot.
And this is another way that helps reassure that this shit is, you know what I'm saying, something or legit, is when you get women to agree into these stereotypes in the way we look at relationships. That's why whatever her name is, Pearly Things, you know what I'm saying, she's just as, you know what I'm saying, bad for men as the men that say this shit, you know what I'm saying, because when women decide to go along with these type of standards, a lot of times we, you know what I'm saying, and it's not to say that Pearl actually lived her life like this. Who knows? I don't know if she lives her life like that or not. But it does lead to a lot of harm being done, whether it just be women believing they have to go with their husbands every word or some shit like that, man, every demand. You know what I'm saying? That leads to a lot of harm, man, believing that you have to be like this and that modern women are this big problem. You know what I'm saying? Without ever speaking about what is a modern man? What is the modern man, man? We don't talk about the modern man. Is the modern man this weak that modern women have had so much influence on society now? Is feminism that strong and prevalent, and that men have nothing to do with it? It's just women. I don't know, man, but I digress, bro.
A lot about them because they're basically like it's exact same content. It's just with a bit more of a pick-me edge. If you don't know what a pick-me is basically a person of an oppressed identity, but in this case, a woman who isn't just deciding to go on a different path than other women, but is loud and proud about it to the point of tearing other women down in order to hopefully get picked. And it's just not that interesting. You can find plenty of videos looking at pick me phenomena from other Black film or even non-Black film creators on YouTube. But this isn't the only concerning women-led movement growing out of this space. While a lot of Black women and film creators have made content addressing problems found in the current manosphere and have found success and notoriety at times by examining valid and important issues for Black women created by misogyny and misogynoir, there's also been another smaller, uglier response from a portion of Black women that is so toxic it's begun to fester, creating the strange and dangerous creature that many call the divester.
And before we get on that divester shit, man, because boy, I used to hate that shit. What's her name, man? I forgot her. You know what I'm saying? Just because I just had to stop watching the content, because like I say, I get it for women now. You know what I'm saying? Actually watching some divester content made me realize where like women have to see this shit on a daily basis, nigga. You don't see that many times, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it hasn't been a bunch of media as far as in our history that's just straight up shitting on men. But you can really see that in women, you know what I'm saying, media, if you just pay attention, you know what I'm saying, making certain type of women the dumb blind, the nerdy this, that, and the third, and the quirky little things that are added in the subliminal that makes you think that every woman that's like this is like this, and every woman that looks like this is like this. You know what I'm saying? We get that a lot in life. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that we don't have that in men as well in certain tropes of society, but it's never been as prevalent, especially the ain't shit man. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as, and I'm mostly talking about Eurocentric portrayals of things, you know what I'm saying? So when I start talking about actual Black experiences, it's definitely a lot different. You know what I'm saying? Because we have definitely always seen the ain't shit Black man at some point in society, which makes this manosphere shit even easier for us to fall susceptible to, because we've constantly seen this shit our whole lives. And then when the women jump on board with that, it makes it easier for us to be like, well, yeah, fuck women and shit and woo 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 like that. Not saying that every Black man's experience with going over to the manosphere or red pill content is dealing with a bad relationship with a Black woman. Sometimes it could just be in them. You know what I'm saying, as well. But there's just a little bit of perspective to have. Let's go and get on these divestors, man.
I know they're coming for me. If you're wondering why I'm speaking in a low voice and I'm hiding, you see the pink light. They're finally coming for me. The Manosphere has been telling me for a year that I'm afraid to talk about divestors. They were right. How will I survive this? Why did I ever speak on the divestors? I mean, sure, it's like nobody knows who the fuck they are, right? They have like very minimal like relevance on any platform as a whole. Hey. Who are they? Why are y'all niggas so scared of them? What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Y'all keep bringing them up. It shows how goofy and stupid y'all are. that y'all think people are afraid to talk about. I had one dude on Reddit, and I asked him, what's the biggest threat to black people in America? This nigga said divestors. This is why nobody takes y'all seriously.
Almost as long as fans have been telling me I should make a video on the Black Manosphere, I've had a lot of male fans telling me to make a video on divestors. For the longest, I said no. At first, it was because I didn't realize how bad divestors were. I don't have, much respect for Manosphere niggas, and thus I didn't take their cries seriously. They complain all the time about them. Yet, if you go to any divestor video comment section, you'll see Manosphere type motherfuckers all up in the comments arguing. These dudes are addicted to arguing in the comment section. So at first, they just seemed like controlled opposition from my perspective. It wasn't until I did a little bit more research that I realized that divestors took things to a different level. Like, we have the niggas ain't shit discourse. And was that divestors? Is that just, black women with bad takes on masculinity? Is that just misandry? There's arguments there. But divestors be like, niggas ain't shit, and I hope they die.
When we look at, when I look at these white men, they are the epitome of masculine, and watching some of these police officers manhandle these black men in the street is very attractive, and it's a turn on, and I'm wondering.
And I just want to say, you know what I'm saying, that it was a big uproar of this shit, you know what I'm saying? But a couple of years ago, you know what I'm saying, it's about the time I ran across this. I want to say this is woman's channel is who he's showing right now, you know what I'm saying? I want to say it's like Cynthia G or some shit, you know what I'm saying? She was definitely going real hard at that little point in time and shit. But what made me get off of it is just realizing that shit, the only reason she got this platform is because of us giving the energy. You know what I'm saying? When black men and other women started ignoring that shit and realizing like, hey man, I ain't on this shit you on, nigga. Like, you going too far, especially when they were talking like this, when they were saying the craziness that they were saying about these police shootings, about black on black crime and all that shit, man. Like, this all, you know what I'm saying, are branches of white supremacy. When it gets this far, when it even the ladder getting to that, you know what I'm saying, going up to that part, you know what I'm saying, it's definitely, you know what I'm saying, based in white supremacy. But when you get there, you pretty much a full-fledged white supremacist at that point. Yeah. I ain't got much left in me. My battery just showed that I need to get up off this mud. So I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, man, and then we're gonna get up out of here.
I'm wondering, does anybody else feel like that?
Hold on.
Yes, Lord.
If you don't know who a divestor is, like, imagine a white supremacist, like the most foaming at the mouth, hating black people, white supremacists, but make it a black woman. I'm not joking. That's not an exaggeration.
The way that women engage in violence or advocate for it is passive. They do by the ostracization, gossip. It's all of these things that are never direct. It's almost always indirect. So when you think about what a divestor is, the fascism that's coming in, the people who are likely going to be the foot soldiers of that are going to be women, because the women are the teachers, the women are the social workers, the women are the nurses. And we don't look at them because they're not directly and outright violent.
They don't have policy power. They
They don't have policy power, but they're the people who are going to be pushing it through. They're on the school boards. They're pushing some of these lawsuits, and it's subtle. It's subtle. So I think the intervention is different, because when people think of fascism and how reactive you got to be, you think of like, you need to punish it. I'm like, well, this type of thing, I don't know if that approach makes sense, but you do need to treat them as if these things can be harmful. Because when I first wrote the article about the divestors, I had a guy, one of my mentors growing up, a friend of the family, he called me like a day later. He's like, thank you for writing that. I'm seeing this in schools. These teachers how they talk about black boys. I'm like, so it's just, it goes.
I think that's where I'm gonna stop it at, man, and give my final thoughts. Because this definitely is in the schools, and it's a lot more prevalent than any of this woke ideology they so scared of any of this you know what I'm saying, transgenderism or any of the other things that they try to make, you know what I'm saying, a issue in our schools today. You know what I'm saying? Learning about black history, any of that shit, you know what I'm saying, is the fact that there's very, very, very high anti-blackism in everything, you know what I'm saying, that we have conducted in this society, but especially the education system. And when you get people who look at black boys, black girls in a certain light, teaching people shit, shaping and molding the minds, a lot of times you deal with a lot of the bullshit that, you know what I'm saying, you think that you will escape from if you put a black person in a teacher role or a minority of some kind in the teacher role. But because we don't address these inherent biases that we pick up from media and music and all that shit, we end up, you know what I'm saying, putting the same exact thing just in blackface in these schools. And like I say, the divestor community is a very small section of black women, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a very, very small. So I'm not trying to make this out to be like this is a all black women thing and none of that shit, because men going to the extreme on the other side is also white supremacy. Because who do these guys go and marry? White women, 9 times out of 10. White women. So it's always the proximity of getting to whiteness, man. That's why the manosphere is even a thing, because we listened to the men saying this shit and was like, well, all women show ain't shit. And decided to, you know what I'm saying, jump on board with these things, man. So I really gotta say, man, that statistics, they do paint a somewhat of a story. They might highlight certain problems to a story, but they do not paint the whole picture. And until we start realizing that, man, these gender wars will continue amongst men and women, black men and black women, white men and white women. But the effects of them having it, the effects that they have got from it, are recent phenomena. You know what I'm saying? Whereas our effects have been compounded with racism and the whole, because we are the subjects of white supremacy, man. And everything that's branched off of white supremacy, because they say white supremacy, but if you really want to give it a true diagnosis, it's white male supremacy. So understanding that, well, you'll understand that why misogyny and sexism and all that shit have factors in play at hand. Why what they call homophobia and transphobia and all these other different phobias are so strong and prevalent in their community, because a lot of times it's, I mean, I saying that there's no trans in our home, no gay people in our community, but the problems really come in their community. The problems with non-acceptance and shit, because we all know black people, you know what I'm saying, we all have them people, and they definitely go through their struggles. Gay people in the black community definitely go through struggles. No, let me not sit here and play games like that shit's not real. But at the same time, it's just a different level of perspective in these whole situations and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think black people have coming to a point where it's a lot harder for us to accept some of the new ways of things. And I ain't saying we should accept all of it. I definitely believe it should be pushed back in questions and criticisms and shit. But the outright shunning of people because of a gender or because of way of life they decide to choose, especially when they grown folks, because child, that's a whole different matter to me. But grown folks, man, I ain't treating you no different. I don't give a fuck about what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got me being in proximity to a trans person or a gay person don't make me no certain type of way, make me feel no certain type of way. Me being around a woman doesn't make me feel like I have control over in this made up thing of patriarchy that they saying that we living in. None of that shit. And I think when we start realizing that and looking at reality for what it is, a lot of the shit that these people try to give us is diagnosis to problems. We'll realize it's not merely biggest problems, especially in black communities, because like I say, our shit is a lot more unique. It's a lot more different. We have a whole nother system at play other than just misogyny. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, we've actually seen our black women be raised up in certain levels to use as proxies against us and other black men. So it works on in so many levels to where the way a man would tackle these problems, a black man in per se will tackle these problems is not the same as a white man. But I'm just gonna end this with y'all have a blessed day, man, out there, man. And I'm gonna throw my little clip in, man, and y'all be easy, bro.
I like who like me.
Right.
I like who like me.
Right.
I ain't trying to convince you and trace you down and tie you down. Oh, why you don't like me? Bro, not in today's time.
So y'all be blessed, man. And shit, man, I might pick it back up on some shit later, man. We might talk about something else, man. But if you didn't catch the video, go and catch the replay. Man, y'all be warm. Y'all be safe out there, man. Prayers for California. All that shit, man.